Welcome to UCHL's 4 Days Media Luncheon. Our players are Defensive Lineman Demetrius Farmer, Head Coach Matt Mitchell in the middle, and Quarterback Bart Williams. Grand Valley State will be playing Saginaw Valley State in the Battle of the Valleys, and it's a NFL-themed color rush game, as Saginaw Valley State will be wearing their all-red uniforms, Grand Valley State wearing all black. So it's a 7 p.m. kickoff on ESPN3. So, Coach, you can talk about the Northwood victory, and then we'll move on to the Saginaw Valley.
Sure thing. Another great crowd at Lubber Stadium. I think we're close to having 30,000 fans the last two games. It was a little bit hot, but a lot of people came out. Really appreciate the environment that we get to coach and play in. Let's start with the defensive side of the ball. Back-to-back home shutouts. We've only allowed one touchdown in 3 league games. I thought that we had a good plan going in. I thought our defensive guys practiced extremely well. Our defensive line really plugged up the inside. Northwood was not able to move the line of scrimmage at all, and then we ran play-action passes. We got some pressure on the quarterback. The linebackers and the edge guys did a great job playing off cut blocks, and we had extra hats to the option attack. We had guys running. I thought, in the inside linebacker spot with, Colin, Garrett played really well, Punier and Conce were running east and west, and then our overhang players did a really good job of playing off the cut blocks. I thought Deshaun Hurley, Tyler Bradfield, Kyle Short, that was really the key to the game. And then in the back end, I have to give Jacob Studdard a lot of credit. We were down Jalen Harden because of the suspension from the earlier targeting penalty against Michigan Tech. He ran a lot in the first half, really did a good job coming downhill, making some physical tackles. And we put a lot of pressure on Studdard. I thought he really stepped up and was glad to see him get that pick on the second half. So really complete defensive effort. They never got inside our 41 time the entire night, and forced a couple turnovers. And even when we put in some of the reserves in the fourth quarter, I thought they did a good job too, kind of learning on the fly and doing a good job. Offensively, very balanced offensively. Controlled the line of scrimmage, got some the run game was very effective, got some explosive runs. I thought, Bryce Young Walls ran very physical. If you're at the game, he was running guys over, running through people, which I think is critical, that we keep developing the tailback position beyond just Martavius. But it was good to see Marty get in the back end and rip off some long runs. And then, as I said in the post-game press conference, I thought Bart was very much on point. Not a lot of errors in the passing game. Was kind of hitting his targets. The first series they played base defense, went down the field. Then they really started pressuring us. And I think what we did a good job in the third quarter, when we kind of exploded in the third quarter, was protecting our quarterback and throwing and catching. Bean had another big night with some screens and some balls down the field. Kaiser on some crossing routes. And then nice to see Erston Smith catch the go route and try to get him going a little bit after his injury and get back out there. So if there was one disappointment, was probably our special teams. Northwood's always been really good on special teams. I don't know that we took advantage of the return game as much as we can. The special teams didn't cost us. There wasn't any critical errors on special teams, but would like to see a little bit more production, and that's everybody, coaches and players, attacking that and getting better. But to come out of there with 49-0 victory, we had one of our wide receivers was hurt, but relatively injury-free, and some confidence moving on here to Saginaw. So I got the Battle of the Valleys. I know it's a big, coaching cliche, but you can throw the records out anytime, these two teams play. We went to triple overtime with them last year, a really contested game on offense and defense. I would say here in the past couple years, our Bart hasn't maybe – that's been the one game I know he wished he could probably have a couple throws back, so I'm sure he'll be motivated against Saginaw, this year. And then I'd say I'm impressed with their offensive backfield. When you look at Ryan Conklin, their quarterback, he's tough. They run him some, but he's really tough. He stands back there and takes some shots and delivers the ball. And they have a good running back crew. Tommy Scott hurt us last year from Muskegon Catholic Central, and he's off to a good start. And they've got a couple guys in the backfield that are elusive and athletic. This might be the best collection of talent in the offensive backfield when you take a look at quarterback and running back that we've faced. So, new challenge for our defense. This is more of a traditional offense, but they can throw the ball down the field. The first 3 opponents that we've seen have either been option, under center, really didn't have much of a shotgun passing attack. This will be a legitimate 5-step passing attack that we'll have to face probably the first time we've seen it in the entire season. And then defensively, they're big. They're big up front. Their 2 interior defensive linemen are stout. Their linebackers are hunkered in there. And, we've got to get some guys covered up and hopefully get the ball in the second level. If there's an area that, I think Michigan Tech was able to come back on. They hit some pass plays and did some things on their secondary there. So, a chance for us to get 4-0 in the league. As we sit here right now, there's only 3 undefeated teams in the league, and when you look at the GLIAC, there's no undefeated teams with what happened this past Saturday. So, all the top teams have 0 losses in the league, and they have 1 overall loss. So we're kind of in a position right now. We have a lot of opportunities right in front of us. We're not going to look too far forward. We're just kind of focused on Saginaw Valley, great prep, and trying to make sure that we continue to improve, and I think there's plenty of areas that we can improve upon. So I told the team in the locker room, we've outscored our opponents the last 3 games, 139-7, but I still think there's room for improvement. I think that we can continue to better, and we also understand that there's some competition coming down the road that we need to get ready for, and that starts this Saturday with Saginaw Valley.
Coach, you've been able to make the last few teams, especially in league play, one-dimensional on offense. Is this going to be significantly harder to make them one-dimensional?
Yeah, they're balanced. They're not a lot of those teams have been one-dimensional based either on their scheme or their personnel has forced them to be one-dimensional. Saginaw Valley's personnel and or scheme does not put them in a box. They have the ability to run and throw. And obviously we kind of saw that last year when we played them. So there's a lot of moving parts to their offense. They run some zone schemes, some down schemes, try to get their tailbacks in space, and they have some sprinkling enough quarterback runs where those are difficult to keep you honest, but they can also throw the ball down the field, and that's something we haven't necessarily seen a ton of here these first 4 weeks is a legitimate 5-step package where the ball, there's reads and guys are moving down the field and got to cover. So that probably, to me, will be one of the biggest challenges, trying to get pressure on the quarterback and also doing a good job on the back end of our defense because we just haven't been super stressed, in the back end of our defense here the past couple games.
Matt, can you talk a little bit with Demetrius about what has changed since the Indianapolis game when you couldn't really control the opponent's line of scrimmage, and how is it that you've been able to get everybody acclimated now, especially the new guys?
Yeah, I think in the first game, I don't know that Indy was pushing us around. I don't know that we were losing the battle at the line of scrimmage in regards to physically getting manhandled. I think it was a matter of run fits. I think it was a matter of people trusting people to be where they needed to be. And I felt like that after the game. I didn't think it was ever a talent issue. It was an issue of the talent, playing together. And I'm not putting that on the players at all. Like, as coaches, we have to do a better job. We had to do a better job of, making sure our run fits were on point and teaching our players better. And the players had to do a better job of executing it on Saturdays and throughout the course of the week. So I think there was a lot of humility, after that game, both from a player and a coach perspective. And I think that based on the character of the people that we have in our locker room, and obviously Demetrius is a part of that there was some humility about the situation, and everybody got to work, and we got to work and continued to improve, and we continued to get better, and I think that's definitely shown up on tape these past 3 Saturdays too. So,
coming in the first game, it was, like Coach said, it was just learning how to trust each other, trust in the talent that was on the defense, and everybody being in our fits and everybody being in the right gap. So that's all it really was that first game.
Coach, looking at the stats here, Saginaw Valley looks like a team that does not commit very many penalties, and I know that's been a focus for you guys to, commit less quote-unquote stupid penalties. How important will that be for this game?
Well, I think when the tighter the talent gap gets, it comes down to, there's a lot of factors, but turnovers and penalties I think are a couple that you can point to. In the first 3 games, we didn't have any personal fouls at all. The first 3 games, our pre-snap penalties were more, lack of execution, specifically offensively, whether we're jumping off sides. We had some illegal formations, some illegal motions. We didn't have any of those on Saturday. I thought we cleaned up a lot of that stuff. What we had more of on Saturday, there was some chippiness, and we had some post-snap personal fouls. So it was on Sunday we addressed it, a teachable moment. I think we all understand, everybody in the room should understand that, in tight games you can't afford to have those situations. We kicked off from the 20 twice because of offensive personal fouls on touchdowns. And, that's not acceptable. It's putting our kickoff team and, more importantly, our defense in a bad field position. And so we've got to take care of each other and be a family and understand that the impact of some of those things, how that can affect other areas of the football team and individuals on the team too. So, I trust our leadership. I trust that players are perceptive enough to understand from a big picture standpoint how that can hurt us. And, we just got to learn from those moments and kind of, put that behind us and focus on the next game. So our guys I guess understand how penalties can hurt the team. We've worked hard, and I trust the process, and I trust that that'll be cleaned up moving forward.
So, Bart, through 4 games, you've thrown 10 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. What kind of confidence do you carry with you heading into this game against Saginaw?
I think I got a lot of confidence, not necessarily just from statistically based, but just having experience the last couple years. I think that we've done a great job game planning, the offensive coaching staff, and my relationship with Coach Vitzlam and the other quarterbacks has been great. Just because I'm the guy out there doesn't mean that the other two don't contribute to the performance on game day. And I think that we're just doing a good job getting to know, get a feel for each other, how we can work through a game plan, how we can make some adjustments throughout the game. And I think a lot of that is, product of how we haven't turned the ball over through the air yet this year. And, something to try to keep getting better at each week. There's been a couple times Brandon Bean saved me from throwing an interception, and just try to limit those plays.
Matt, I'd like to ask you and Bart about the one big play in the game to parity where it looked kind of strange lining up. He was split way out almost to the boundary, and there was just one guy that looked to be pressing on him. Did you see that right away? Were you originally going to go that way with the pass, or did you just happen to notice when the corner came up and nobody had rolled up to cover for him?
I think on defense they had a missed assignment. We put our formation into the boundary. We had 2 skill receivers in the boundary, and Austin Parity and a tight end split to the field, and they were bringing a lot of corner pressure the entire game. And I think with 2 skill in the boundary, they got messed up and they made some check, and the corner from the field for some reason thought that he was blitzing. So if you look on the tape, they had 2 guys blitzing, and they haven't really brought the corner and the will linebacker on a blitz at all. And luckily my read took me to the field, and I just noticed that he was just running with nobody on him. So it wasn't a situation where I noticed that they were messed up, but the way my read took me, it took me right over to where Austin was, and got to take advantage of that. And that's nice because I don't know, we see that happen a lot watching game film. But it's hard to game plan team. They're going to bust an assignment, and you got a play on that's going to take advantage of it. So that was nice that we got to take advantage of that play.
Not much I can say. He's dead on it. His assessment was perfect with what happened. So, good job, Bart.
Okay, Coach, talk just a minute. It seems like every year we kind of go into the Saginaw Valley game and think something's going to happen, and then that never happens. It's always kind of a crazy game, and it has a different feel to it. I know you might not have an explanation, but I'm asking you for one. Do you have any idea what causes that? Why it adds a little zest to it every time?
Well, I think it's rivalry based. A lot of those rivalry games, if you look at the highest levels on down, you can kind of throw the point spreads out the window a lot of times in the rivalry games. And so I think that has a lot to do with it. I think that there's a lot of pride in Grand Valley football, and there's a lot of pride in Saginaw Valley State football. It's a team that's, institutionally athletic department, they have a lot of pride. And so, regardless of what the records are and everything like that, I think there's been a lot of back history. You go back to Brian Kelly and some of those early years in the 2000s. Those were some massive games. I was a part as an assistant, some really big games. Also in the mid-2000s, even early in my coaching career, we had, the one year where we played them at the end of the regular season, got in, and we had them in the first round of the playoffs. That was very, very, very unique situation. The NCAA put us in there. So it's, over the course of time, like I said, dating back to the 2000s, we're looking at 17 years of history with a lot of implications on those games. And even though some of these players weren't a part of that, I think they still understand that at both institutions. And also quite a few guys on the roster from, that know each other from the state of Michigan when you take a look at the rosters. So I think these guys kind of know each other, and that might play into a little bit of the rivalry also.
You talked a little bit earlier about the touchdown to interception ratio, and Mitch last week at the press conference, you talked about the emergence of the offensive line and how important it was for protection. Talk about how they've come and developed, and not only that, but also protection with the running backs and the unbelievable blitz pickup Bryce Young-Walls had this past week.
Yeah, that's a great point, Bob. I thought the backs did a great job on Saturday when they did start bringing pressure to pick it up. I think the one where we had the back come across the protection, and they were bringing the edge pressure. He picked it up, was really big on Bart's touchdown pass. So, yeah, we have to have enough pride in our offensive line that on a four-man pass rush, we can get that protected with just our four down guys and not have to get into max protections, because that really limits your options in the passing game. And we do pressure, we should be able to pick up most of the pressures with six-man protections, and the backs are a big part of that. And I think we were concerned about that heading into the season with the loss of Terrell Dorsey. Terrell Dorsey was very much on point with his pass pro. But I think Marty has increased his understanding and his role in that. And I think Bryce Young-Walls has really stepped into a great job. I think that's one of the reasons Bryce is probably the number 2 tailback, more than his ability to run, is trust by the coaching staff that he understands the protections. And so with the nature of passing game that we have, I think a lot of people know, fans, coaches, people in our league, that if Bart has a clean pocket with the receivers that we have and the arm talent and understanding of the scheme, that could be a pretty lethal combination. So anytime they start bringing the fire or they start bringing the pressure, we got to put it out. And if you put it out, that'll get them out of it. And so there's a lot of ways we can do that, but definitely one of the ways is by protecting the quarterback and catching and throwing. And that was probably more than anything what allowed us to have that big third quarter. And we need to continue to work on that moving forward. Our tackles right now are doing a good job. I think Ben Walling's playing at a really high level at right tackle, and Fish is a year older and has done a good job. I think if there's an area improvement we need, it's at our guards. We're starting a redshirt freshman. Nate Brady is really good in the run game. He's got to pick up some of his 5-step protections. So we need to continue to work. The ends probably don't worry us as much as some of the inside guys. The 3 techniques and the shades. We got to get those guys covered up, I think. Those are the direct lines to the quarterback, and continue to work on technique and improving our 5-step pass game.
Demetrius, just wanted to ask you, how do you feel now about your decision to transfer here as a senior transfer, and what do you think of the culture of Grand Valley football?
The decision to transfer here, I think it was a great decision for me. I love it here at Grand Valley. The brotherhood I've created with these guys since I've been here since June has been incredible. They took me in as I was one of their guys and never made me feel like a transfer at all. So I think it was the best decision for me to come to Grand Valley State.
Also, last thing, Coach, everybody's got facial hair up there. Is that a thing on this team, or what's going on?
Pure coincidence.
And Demetrius is pretty nice looking there. He's worked on his.
Yeah, he takes pride in his appearance. There's no doubt about that. I think it's just pure coincidence. I don't think there's anything going on in the locker room this year. I was thinking about shaving it off after that Indy loss and kind of moving on, but we've rebounded, so I'm going to keep it for a while and see what happens.
If the players could comment on this, Bart, this will be your third game against Saginaw Valley State, and it's a rivalry game. Demetrius, it's your first. Bart, talk a little bit about that rivalry. And Demetrius, you've experienced Ohio rivalries, but this will be your first Saginaw Valley State, Grand Valley State rivalry.
I mean, the last 2 years, they've brought it. They've given us tough competition. Even that 2015 season, their record, from what I remember, wasn't great going into the last game of the season. And, we were kind of rolling, and, that wasn't an easy game. I haven't played well against Saginaw the last 2 years, just to be completely honest. You can just look back and look at the stat line and just see that there's definitely room for improvement. So, they're fired up. I think we got to, come with a lot of intensity. I think the talent gap is going to shrink. They're going to be, just as talented, and it's going to come down to, I think, who wants it more. So, this is definitely one of those weeks that you got to take everything seriously, game plan, coming out to practice. We can't afford to have one bad day of practice and regroup. So, it's just a big week, just like every week is. But, these guys are going to come fired up, and they're a good football program.
Definitely. I think Bart hit it right on the head right there. But we got to come in and prep hard for this game this Saturday. It's a rivalry game. It's a big one here between Saginaw and Grand Valley. And I'm blessed to be able to be a part of this. And I know how they're going to come. They're going to come ready and give everything they got. So we got to bring it this Saturday.
Okay, that'll conclude today's media luncheon. Thank you.